it didn't take up much data. So I believe each and every one of us, you guys are seeing my Figma interface, right?
Yes, we
Yes,
are.
we are.
All right, so now let's jump into it. Now you can see this Figma interface is as smooth and as simple as it is. Now I want you to understand that that is how simple it is to use Figma. Now, when I am explaining the interface of Figma, this is how I usually explain it. I usually try to tell you that I want you to see Figma. I want you to see that Figma is segmented into 4 different sections. Now I will quickly run through that 4 different sections, then I will now dive into these sections and explain them deeply. And I think before I'm done, my time should be up by then. Now, if you see this section that have this black side, the black side of Figma, that's this top layer. I call that section the tool panel. That's your tool panel. That's where you see the tools you're going to be working with in Figma. Do we understand that?
Yes,
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Now you see this section now. You see this section now by your left hand side, where you have something like layers, and then you have page 1 here. I call it the layer/asset panel. Now Figma works with layers, meaning that every single thing you're going to be creating is going to be documented in separate layers. So for instance, now if I create a circle in Figma, it will put it in a layer. If I create another circle, it will put it in another layer. So that is how Figma will be documenting your stuffs for you. So if you want to be seeing probably where a particular object is, or a particular object is positioned, you can always identify them under the layers. Now assets are like, there's a part of Figma where you start talking about components. So when you create a component out of an object, Figma stores it in your assets. Now components are reusable objects. So what I mean by reusable objects is, for instance, I create a button and I convert it to a component. Now that component I converted it to is a master component. I can go ahead and duplicate that same master component to have child components as many times as possible, and I'll just be reusing them just like that. So Figma stores all the components in your assets panel. Don't worry, we are going to try that out now very shortly. So this is our layer/assets panel. Now if you come to your right hand side, now please, somebody's mic is on. Can you mute, please? Someone's mic is on. Now if you come to your right hand side, we have the design/prototype panel. Now there's an extra feature they call inspect, but inspect is mostly used by developers or people who we are handing our design over to. So this is where they probably pick up the background color, the color codes, and then the position of our objects on our canvas. Now the 4th one is our canvas space. So our canvas space is this big space that is here. This is where we do the magic that we do in Figma. This is basically where we create this design. So we pick stuffs from the toolbar, use it and create something. Then that thing we created is documented in the layers panel. Now if we want to change the properties of that particular thing we did on this canvas, we'll now come to probably design/prototype panel. Now in design/prototype panel is where we see the properties of a particular object that we are selecting on our canvas. Am I communicating, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Now the moment you
Yes,
understand,
we're following.
the moment you understand
Sir, can you
Figma,
come again?
I said that in the design/prototype panel is where we can actually change the properties of a selected object on our canvas. So for instance now, okay, I don't want to do that now. For instance, anything I select, on this canvas, and I want to change the color, I want to curve the edge, I want to add an outline. Those things are things that, if I do those things, that means I am adjusting the properties. Now for me to do all those things, all I just have to think of, come to this design/prototype panel, I must see those properties that I'm going to adjust. Now the design panel, to be precise, is where you see the properties you're going to adjust. The prototype panel is when you're trying to add interactions to your design. Of course, when you finish designing your work, you have to add interactions. Interactions is like making the buttons clickable. So if somebody presses button to sign in, let it take it to the next page. So that's an interaction. So it's in the prototype panel that will try to build those interactions and add those animations. Now I just want to simplify it for us. I don't want you guys to see it as a very complicated thing. That's why I had to take this procedure. So now let's jump into studying the tools that we have in Figma. Now the first tool here now is the move tool. Now, before I explain the move tool, let me quickly introduce us to the Figma main menu. So if somebody's mic is on, please mute, please. Now, to the Figma main menu. Now, in the Figma main menu, we have like, the basic things you'd always see in every software, which is like file, edit, objects, blah, 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 blah. But I want to just introduce us to like few. Now, if you come to file is like you want to create a new design file, you want to save your work, you want to export. After designing, you want to export. You can do that under the file. Now, view, okay, edit is like you want to do the basic things like you want to undo, you want to copy something or paste something, you can come to edit. So anytime you're thinking of trying to edit an object, and you don't remember the shortcut or anything, come to the edit panel and look for that option you're looking for. There's high possibility that you're going to see it. Now, on the views panel, just like the name implies, you want your ruler to show. If you take a look at my canvas space, now you will see that you're seeing my ruler. You understand? If you want the ruler to show, then you can come to view, you see rulers, you activate it. If you don't want the ruler to show, you can come to view, look for rulers and uncheck it. As you can see, the rulers have disappeared and it's giving me a notification that rulers are hidden here. So that is, anytime you want something to show, you want to zoom in, you want to zoom out, come to the view section. You understand? Now, anytime you're working on an object, right? Objects might include shapes. Objects are basically shapes in Figma. And you now want to see like things you can do with that object. Can you make it a component? Can you select like group 2 or more objects and make a group out of it? Do you want to bring the object to top or take it down? Anytime you're thinking on what you can do to an object, just come to the object panel. Now, that is how organized Figma is. So I want you guys to use that same ideology to approach it, so you don't have hard time going around Figma. Now, the next one here is the plugins. Now, the plugins, I'm just explaining the important ones that you're going to be working with regularly. Now, the plugins is like AIs. They help do the things, they help do a lot of tasks for us faster. So I want you to imagine this. Now, imagine I want to create 10 lines in Figma. It simply means I'm going to draw line 1, draw line 2. Please, somebody's mic is on. Please, can mute your mic, please. Why would you just want to on your mic and be disturbing every other person in class? Fedaya, can you help me and mute everybody, please?
All right, no problem. Unmute yourself.
All right, thank you. So, what was I talking about? Hey.
Plugin. I'm talking about plugin.
Plugins.
Thank you. Please, let me not stop forgetting, please. All right, so plugins. Now, I want you to see plugins as AIs. They help you do things faster. Now, imagine this case scenario. I want to draw 10 lines on my canvas, but I want to just use line to do a design, right? And I want it to be 10. And the thing is, for me to achieve that means I have to draw line 1, line 2, line 3. You understand? And let's just assume that it takes me it takes me like 5 seconds to draw one line. Do you understand? It means it's going to take me like 5 times 10 seconds to draw 10 lines. But plugins, if there is a plugin in the community that allows me draw lines by just owning that plugin, you will see that it's going to save me a lot of time. So plugin just helps me to do things a little bit more faster. You understand? Now I'm going to show you how to get plugins and some other materials. So in the Figma has like a community base. You understand? Community base is just like other designers out there who are doing nice stuff, and then they're just putting it in the community to just help designers like us who are just trying to learn, so just to make your work faster. So for instance, now you want to work on a project and you actually want to see like a template of similar projects that have been done like that. You can go to the community and search, and of course if there's something like that, Figma is going to create it for you and you're going to see similar projects and you can draw inspirations from there. But please do not copy. So when you click on, when you come to file, you see plugins, right? When you come to file here, you see plugins, and of course these are like some plugins I have, of which during the class probably we'll be introducing you to some of them. You understand? You are definitely going to be introduced to some of them that we're going to be using in class. And then of course I'm going to show you guys one thing about the community. Now I'm going to show you how to access Figma community. But while trying to access Figma community, not because of, oh, I have access to Figma community, now I'm going to download all the plugins in the community. There's a high possibility that it's going to be hanging your system if your system is not very, very, strong. So just get the plugins that you know you're going to be using. So before you get any plugin, always read the review about it, and if possible, comments for the creator, tell him thank you or something like that, because it's usually free. Now, to access the community, all you just have to do is come to plugins, scroll down and say browse plugins in the community. So the moment you click on that, it's actually going to take you to another tab. Can you guys see my community tab now, or is this just showing my Figma?
Yes, we can.
It's showing the community tab.
Okay, yeah. So now you can see this Figma community. So in the Figma community, you can search for plugins, design systems, UI kits, icons most especially. I enjoy getting icons from the community. So you can search for this, basically anything you can do in Figma, you can search for it. So for instance, now if I'm to say icons, now let me just search icons, right? Now Figma is going to show me files, like somebody's mic is on. So Figma is showing me, first of all, it's showing me plugins that can probably have icons, probably the kind of icons I'm going to use. So for instance, if I click
Unmute yourself, Uche.
Okay.
Uche, unmute yourself.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So here Figma is showing me plugins, right, that helps me generate icons, right? But usually I don't like using plugins for my icons. I like having them in files. So if I install any of these plugins, it means I can actually use them to, probably if I activate the plugin, I can actually search for different icons that I can use to be working, on my platform. So now if I click on files, which is the one I like to use, I can see different files that have plugins. So if I duplicate, for instance, now if I click on any file, probably I like this iconly community. So if I click on this, I'm going to have if I duplicate it, it's going to open up these icons on my Figma, right? It's going to open up these icons on my Figma. And if I like those icons, I can use them to do my work. And that's how, very, very easy it is to work with, Figma files in the in your Figma rather. So let me just allow this to open, so you guys can just see it, and then probably we'll just move into learning the tools. It's loading. So yeah, so these are like different icons you can work with, right? So so there are final icons. I have final icons in my archives though, but there are final icons, but I just needed you guys to see how it looks like, so so yeah, so I'll close this and then I'll come back to my Figma file. So you guys can see my Figma interface, right?
We can.
All right, so
Yes, we can see.
all right, so let me quickly explain the tools we have in Figma. So the first tool here is the move tool. So the first tool here is the move tool and the scale tool. Now basically, just like the name implies, the move tool is used to move objects around our interface, right? While the scale tool is of course used to scale objects around our interface. Now I'll show you the difference between the move tool and the scale tool very shortly. But before I do that, I want us to discuss the next tool, which is the frame tool. Now the frame tool is like one of the most powerful tools in Figma, because the frame tool is like, when you want to design something, you're going to like create a new document if you're using MS Word or something. But here in Figma, you're going to create a new frame. Now please, by no chance should you in any way, when you're trying to create like a new frame, you use a rectangle, that's an object, to create like where you're going to be working on. Always make use of a frame. Do not use a rectangle, because most people what they normally do is that they come and use this rectangle and then they draw like something like this, and then they start designing here. Probably I should change it to white. Okay, there's something I didn't show us. Probably, and then they start designing here. You can do that, but it's not advisable, because when you start prototyping, Figma does not understand prototyping from object to object. What it understands is prototyping from a frame to a frame. So that's why you always need to start your project with a frame. And added to that, when I click on frame, by the properties panel, which is in our design/prototype panel, Figma automatically shows me different sizes templates of different sizes. So if I'm working on a mobile device or in a mobile platform, if I click on a phone, Figma will show me different phone sizes for iPhones, Androids, and and so you have it there. So it will show you different phone sizes that I can just click on. So if I want to work on iPhone 13 Pro Max, using iPhone 13 Pro Max as my custom size, I can click on iPhone 13 Pro Max and you can see it has selected that size. In a case where it's not I'm not working for a mobile platform, I'm working for a web platform. If I click on the frame now, Figma still have templates for different desktop sizes. So if I click on desktop, it has sizes for MacBooks, and it has sizes for normal Windows desktop size. So you can just from there pick it. Now in a case where I don't want to use any of these templates that Figma have, I want to actually create my own template. Maybe I don't want to use Figma for probably a digital screen design. I want to probably use for probably something that will be used in somewhere else, or probably I just need a custom size. Now once I click on that frame tool now, sorry, so let me just delete all these guys. Once I click on frame tool now, I can click and then drag. Now this size I just clicked and drag, it's not custom. Now if you now want to, maybe I have the exact size, probably 1080 by 1080, then I can come to this properties panel. Now you will see width and height. Then I can adjust the width to 1080 by 1080, 1080 here. I've chosen my size. You understand? Now the X and the Y axis is just the X position of this frame and the Y position of this frame. So if I adjust the X position of this frame, you can see it's moving in the X direction. If I adjust the Y position of this frame, it's moving in the Y direction. Hope I'm communicating, guys.
Yes,
you are.
Yes, sir. You are.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are.
Look, I'm lost.
Okay, I will just say, basically the information in what I just said is just I wanted you guys to always use the frame tool to start up your canvas. Do not use the rectangle tool. You understand? So if you just want to create a new document, just use your frame and then determine the size of your frame and then create it. And then of course I can start designing here. You understand? That's just what I'm trying to say. So frame tools is used to create your canvas where you do your designs. That's all. So I'll delete this and I'll open this. I'll be working with this now. So I wanted to show you guys, in the recent update that Figma made, Figma activated dark mode. So designers have been asking for dark mode. They say this light mode is always very harsh on their eyes, so they activated dark mode. So I was supposed to show you that before I start showing you guys the tools. So let me just go back and show you guys. So if you want to activate dark mode on your Figma because you like dark mode, just come to the main menu, come to preference, come to theme, and select dark mode. So if you select dark mode, it will switch to dark mode. But because I've used Figma for long in the light mode, I think I still like the light mode up to now. So I'll stick to that, but I just feel like a lot of persons like dark mode, so you like that feature. So now let's proceed. So we've discussed about the move tool and of course the frame tool. Now these are now your shape tools. The shape tool is the tool beside the frame tool. Now it's also very important that as you are going through these tools, for some of us that are on our laptops now, as you're going through these tools, you understand, always take note of the shortcuts. So the shortcuts are always written by the side. So for instance now, if I am on my canvas and I want to select rectangle, I can just hit R on my keyboard and it will switch to the rectangle tool. If I want to draw a line, I can just hit L on my keyboard and it will switch to the line tool. If I want to select an arrow, I can just hit Shift L on my keyboard and it will switch to the arrow tool. So now the shape tool basically just helps us to draw shapes. So now I can draw a rectangle, and we use rectangles most of the times to create our buttons. Now I can draw a circle. We use circles to create probably our add option button. Sorry. Then I can draw our star, right? Now I can draw a polygon as well. So I'm going to be explaining something about this star and polygon. Now remember that I said that this bar here is our property bar. Now for instance, now I want to draw a star, but I don't want the star to have 5 sides. I want it to have probably 8 sides, right? So if you come to this property bar now, you will see a property that says count just underneath the positioning of the height, the size of your canvas. You see count here. Now if you change this count now from 5 to 8 and hit enter on your keyboard, you can see that it changed this star to 8 sides. Now the same thing with the polygon tool. Now polygon tool, if you're using polygon tool at the default, it's going to have 3 sides because the basic polygon has 3 sides. But in a case where I want to use a hexagon, because hexagon has 6 sides, for my designs, you will see the count option here when you click on that polygon tool, and you can use it to, you can hit on it. Probably hexagon has 6 sides, I can put 6 and then hit enter, and it will change to hexagon. And of course I can use hexagon to do the kind of designs I want to do. Now if you want to like import an image into your Figma, you understand, under this shape tool where you see something like a place image tool. So when you hit on the place image tool, it's going to take you into your system. Then you can locate where the image is, select the image and then click on import. It will bring it into your Figma interface. That is one method. Another method you can do is you can just go to where the image is on your system, select it, press Ctrl C. Ctrl C is to copy, or you right click and locate copy on your key, on your options panel. Then come to Figma, press Ctrl V. Ctrl V is to paste, and it will just paste in the picture into your Figma interface. So that's how you can import pictures into Figma. So I haven't explained this. Let's move over to the next tool. Or before I move over to the next tool, let me now show you guys the difference between the move tool and the scale tool, because it's very important that you understand it, because as a beginner or as a novice in Figma, you might be making these mistakes and you've seen that somehow your works are shrinked. But you cannot place Can you guys hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, we can now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, sir, I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you very much. So sometimes now because as a beginner you can be trying to most times you're going to be working with objects, right? And you're going to be increasing and decreasing, and resizing and all of those. But if you're not using the right tools to do that, you might be seeing that as you're doing it, your work is shrinking and you don't actually know how to do that. So let me give you guys that pro tip ahead of time, so you don't design works that shrink. Somebody's mic is on, please help me unmute.
Uche, unmute yourself.
Okay. Can I? Okay.
Mr. Uche, please unmute yourself.
All right. So I believe you can hear me now.
Uche.
All right. Yeah, I think I've done that now.
Okay.
All right. So now the difference between move tool and the scale tool is, if you're trying to use the move tool to do the job of the scale tool, see what is going to happen. Now I want to scale this hexagon. Now I've increased it, right? Now, but as I'm increasing, you can see it's stretching, and you might not want to be doing this. So for instance now, I closed that icon. This thing I opened before. But this always happens when you're trying to work with your icons. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you loud.
Yes.
Your network is clear.
Okay. So now if I click on this and I'm trying to like drag, stretch or decrease or something, you can see that this is stretching. The proportion of the original image is being changed. Now let me take it back to the original state, which is this, and then if I try to use the scale tool and scale, it does not do that. It maintains that same proportion, which is what you want to be doing in your design. So you don't want your design to be stretching or stuff like that. So that's the difference between the move and the scale tool. So you always have that. So the first shortcut you should know in Figma is V and K. V is for move tool, K is for the scale tool. V is for the move tool, K is for the scale tool, because you're going to be moving a lot of objects, and you're going to be doing a lot of resizing, right? So you don't want to always be having stretched objects. So that's why I had to point out that difference for us. So the next tool now is the pen tool. How does the pen tool work? Just like some of us who are in this class might have our pen on our decks, trying to write stuffs. It's easier for you to use your pen and write stuffs. Now that's how it works in Figma. But this time around, you might see yourself using the pen tool to just draw irregular shapes, to draw curves, make some random shapes and all of those. So basically, pen tool is used in just drawing. Under the pen tool, we equally have the pencil tool. So pencil tool does the same thing. So I can use the pencil to just draw random stuffs like this. And because Figma is a vector-based software, it does not give me pixelated edges. After drawing everything, it sharpens all the edges for me. So now let me come back.
Hear you.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. It's your own network.
Okay, let me just continue. So now let me select this and delete. I'll come back to the pen tool. So pen tool basically is used, in making curves or irregular shapes just like this, and that's just all you need to do with the pen tool. So I can say done. Now let me show you guys how to use this pencil, because I might just be saying it like this, then when you now try to use it, to be like, I thought it was just clicking, and that was it. No, that is not actually it. Now let me show you guys how to use the pencil. Now for you to use the pencil, now if the moment the pencil is selected, you can see something like a blue circle following me around as I'm moving my mouse. Now that is called a node. So you use the pencil by adding nodes at different positions. So for instance, now if I click now, I've added one node. You understand? So if I click here, I've added another node. If I click here, I've added another node. If I bring back the node to the original point, I am telling Figma, close this node. So if I click it, Figma has closed it. And if I click on done, I can now call this a shape, or probably anything you want to call it, right? Now that is if you're trying to create, use pen tool to make like straight line sketches or something like that. But in a case where we want to create something like curved lines and all of those, now if I select my Figma tool, I add my first node, 1. Now I want to add my second node, but this time around, as I'm adding my second node, I have to click and hold down. Am I communicating, guys? Now the moment you click and hold down, do not let go of your mouse. If you let go of your mouse, you might not get the achieved desired results.
We can't hear you, sir. We can't hear you.
Your own side, we can actually hear him.
Yeah, maybe it's your network.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, now.
We can hear you.
Okay, now I've added this first node. Now if I click again, now as I am clicking now, I'm still holding down my mouse. Now the essence of holding down your mouse is so that you can be able to curve this in your desired, in the way you want it to be. So probably I like it this way, I can let go. Now the moment I let go, this is how it looks like. So I will now determine, okay, where next I want to put my curve. Probably I want my curve to be something like this. Then I can curve again and probably bring it up, hold it down, curve it the way I want, bring it down, curve it the way I want, and probably bring it back to this place, curve it like this. And I've drawn that big shape just like that. So you can actually use it to draw any kind of thing you want to draw. And you even more advantage if you're using like a sketch tablet. You can use the pen tool just the way you use it. You can use the pen tool just the way you use it on your pen and paper, just the way you use it and draw on your sketch pad. So it gives you that advantage. So basically that's how pen tool actually works. So you actually need to rehearse that to be perfect. So we use pen tool to create different kinds of things. We use it to create blobs, we use it to create we actually use it to create icons though. We use it to create different kinds of things. Anything you can think of. So far it's something you can draw. Just be rest assured you can use your pen tool to do that. So now let's quickly move over to the next tool, which is the text tool. But before I explain the text tool, let me explain the two other tools after the text tool, right? Now the two other tools after the text tool is the hand tool and the comment tool. So now the hand tool is basically used to move objects around. So for instance, I can move my canvas, right? I can move. So this is always like very important when you have like a lot of frames you've been working on, right? I have like a lot of frames. Probably let me just duplicate this guy. So I've just duplicated these guys. So probably I'm on this frame like this, right? I'm on this frame and I want to, go to probably the first frame, and of course I can't see the frame. I can just switch the hand tool. If I hold down my space bar, it will automatically switch the hand tool, or you can just click here to select your hand tool, and I can just move like this, move like this, move like this until I locate the first frame, which is this. Do we understand it now?
Yes, sir.
So that's how.
Can you come again, sir, please? Can you come again, please?
Sorry, sir, how do I move?
Now,
Please, can you repeat yourself?
yes, to move with your hand tool, select the hand tool. If you're using your mouse, you're an external mouse, just click and hold down that mouse. If you're using the mouse of your keyboard, just click, I think left click and hold it down. Then you can now just move around. So just click, just make sure you're holding down the click. Hold it down and then you're moving around. That's just basically how you use the hand tool. So let me zoom out and then zoom in back to my page 1. Now the comment tool. Remember that Figma is a collaborative tool that allows you to collaborate with different designers, product managers, developers, just as you have in your team. So the comment tool is actually very, very important. So comment tool allows you, for instance, let's just say I'm working on a project, man, and I've worked on like how many frames here? I think there's 1 to 6 frames, right? I've worked on 6 frames, so I'm probably giving it to probably a board director or somebody, probably a product manager who is overseeing the project, right? And then the project manager wants to make comments. She can actually do that because Figma has like a comment tool here. So once you just click on the comment tool, I can probably drop a comment here that says, I think this white could be black. You understand? And then once the person clicks on enter, it's posted. So anybody working on this project can actually see, this comment and probably attend to this comment. Is somebody trying to say something? Okay. Is somebody trying to say something? Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, let me proceed.
We can hear you.
All right, let me proceed. So that's how you drop comments, right? So most times doing your assignments and stuff like that, you guys will be asked to send your Figma link so we can actually see what you've done, and then you'll be expecting some comments on your work. So this is how you do it. So once a comment is being dropped on your work, Figma is going to show you that comment. Or even if you're doing something else, Figma will say like, "No, I'm doing something else now." So this panel is, but Figma will leave something like this for you to inform you that, okay, a comment was dropped around this section. So probably when you now read the comment, you'll now be able to figure out, okay, this is what they are talking about. I think somebody is trying to say something. I don't know. Is that? Okay, let me just continue. So so you can now read the comments and probably let's just say, okay, I've amended the corrections. Probably I've changed this from white, right, to black. Then I can now hit this plus icon, right? I can click this resolve icon. Sorry, this good icon rather. And the moment you click the resolve icon there, Figma will mark that you've resolved that and it will remove, that comment for you. But it will not remove it in the other users, view, unless that user equally marks it as resolved. Control Z, because I don't like black that much. So the next tool there now is the text tool. So the text tool basically, just like you use your basic stuff, like you're using your WhatsApp, you want to type, you have to click on the text bar. You're using Microsoft Word, you want to type, you have to click on the text tool and you start typing. Basically, that's how it works on Figma, right? So if I click on this text tool, I can actually click here and probably type button, and all of those, so you can click and then you start typing anything you want, or I can type classwork, just anything that comes to your head, you can just type that. And that's just it for the tools. Now, ladies and gentlemen, with everything I've explained to you, if you fully understand and you fully followed me, you understand that is all Figma has to do. Those are just the Figma tools. All the mind-blowing platforms that you're seeing out there that was designed, these were just the tools they used in developing them. Now let me take you guys a little bit deeper by explaining the properties panel, for you guys. If do I still have time?
Sure. You have like 5 minutes.
All right. So
we are ending by 5:30.
All right. So let me just quickly explain the properties panel for us, so that we can now say, okay, we have a fundamental idea of Figma. Now, if I click an object, Control Z, move to delete. Now let's just say this is my frame, right? I'm working with this frame now. Now, if I draw a button, now this is a button, and I want to curve this button. Usually, personally, I don't like using sharp edge button like this. I want to make this button like a curved button, right? Now, if I click on this button, now, on this my positioning panel, if you please help me unmute everybody, please. Thank you. All right, thank you. Now, if I click on this button, right, on this object rather, because I've not turned it into a button yet, so but it's a button actually. But if I click on this shape, right, and I want to curve the edges, if I look at this position canvas, on this position section rather, you will see something like called a corner radius, and it's 0 now because the edges are sharp. So if I change its value to probably 10, if I zoom in, you will see that, okay, the edges of these buttons are now curved. So I'll zoom out again, and probably make it 20 to be more obvious. You can see that the edges of these buttons are now curved. Usually I like using 10 whenever I'm working on a mobile platform, so I'll change it back to 10 now. But what if I want to change the color of this button? I don't want it to be gray. I'll click on it. I'll still come back to the properties panel. Now, mind you, I want you to see this section in the demarcations that Figma gave. You can see these gray lines here. It helps you know that, okay, this feature is actually different. Now, this is Figma talking about fill. This is it talking about another feature. This is it not talking about another feature. So you use those demarcations to know where to. So you use those demarcations to know where you will find which option you're looking for. So, but now I want to change the color of this button, right? Now, if I come to the fill section, I will see the color here, and if I click on it, Figma brings up this color panel, and I can actually change the colors. Now, if I want to use blue, I just have to click on blue, and I can choose different shades of blue. If I'm looking for green, I can click on green, and I can choose different shades of green. But what if I want to reduce the opacity of this green, right? Now, you will now see under this color wheel bar here, you will now see something that looks like an opacized bar. Now, if you click on it, as you're going down, it will be reducing the opacity of that color. Or if you don't want to use the wheel here, you can just put in a value. Probably I know that, okay, 30 this thing will be okay for me. I can just hit 30 there and then it will now reduce the opacity of this thing by 30%. But I think I just want it to be a button, and I want it to be a blue button, so I'll use this shade of blue, and I'm okay with that. Now, for this thing to be a complete button, I have to put in a text, right? So I'll use my text tool, and I will say sign in. But this text tool now is too small, so I want to increase the font size of this text tool so it will sit into this button shape I've created, right? I'll click on the text tool. I'll come to the properties panel. I'll see where text is written there. Now, the first panel you are going to see under that text section is like different different fonts that you have. So from here now, I can actually decide on which fonts I want to choose. I can choose different fonts. So these are different fonts that we have on Figma. Now, if you are probably a graphic designer and you're trying to transition, and now you've already known how to get your fonts from external sources, right? Now, if you activate Figma on your web, you will not be seeing those fonts. Now, for you to see Figma, those fonts on your web, you have to go to Figma website, and you go to the products downloads. You see font installer. Just from that place you downloaded your software, you see font installer. Download the font installer, install it on your system, and restart Figma. It will upload all your fonts. Then you can now see it here. But if you're using a desktop version, you don't need to worry, because Figma will be able to upload all those your fonts to the desktop version. So now I want to use the name of the font. Name of the font I'm using here is Inter. Now if you want, you can change this here. You can change the properties of that font. If you want it to be bold, regular, extra bold, italics, etc. I'll just keep mine at probably semi-bold. Yeah. Now this is where you increase the font size. So probably you want to increase the font size, probably 16 something. Now let me give you guys a very quick pro tip. Now when you're trying to increase your size, your font size, always use an even number, or you increase your font size to an even number. So currently it's at 12. That means if I want to choose another font size, I'm going to make it 14. If 14 is not okay, I'm going to make it 16. If 16 is not okay, I'll make it 18. So always do not use odd numbers and never use a decimal. What I mean by decimal is don't use 12 point something something something. Now these are just pro tips, because when you're using like irregular numbers like that in your font arrangement, when somebody looks at your entire UI, something will just look off. It will not be balanced and you will not be able to place it. You understand? Unless you've had like series of experience. So I'm just giving you guys as a pro tip. So when you're using like probably 24 for your header, just make sure you're using something like 16 or 12 for your body text, or probably 16 for your subheader and 12 for your body text. You see that okay, everything will just look balanced. So that's just like a pro tip. So I'll increase this to probably 24 because I feel like 24 will do justice to that. Then I'll bring it in, and 24, I think that button is too big. So I'll increase the 24 to 26. 26, and I think that it's okay. Now I want to change the color of this font because black does not go well on blue. So I'll just click on it and I'll come to fill, and then I'll change to white, and that's just all there is there. So the next important feature you need to know on the properties panel is the stroke feature. So I will just put this up and then I'll duplicate this. Now let's just say we have sign in and then we equally have sign up. So I'll change this to sign up. But you know, sometimes sign up have to be like a secondary button, right? So, and to make this a secondary button, probably secondary button is just like a slight different from like the primary button. Primary button is always dominant, then secondary button is like trying to support what the primary button is doing. So to make this a secondary button, I'll just have to like remove the fill. Now to remove a fill, I've added a fill here, but what if I want to remove the fill? If you look properly in this fill panel, you see like the minus sign. So if I just click on this minus sign, it will remove the fill. You understand why I'm not seeing the sign up button? Because it's white and my background is white. But what should I do now? I will add a stroke value, right? Stroke is like underneath the fill panel, the fill section. Now what I will do is I'll change the color of this stroke to this blue. But oh, I didn't know this. I don't know this blue color, or I want to pick this blue color directly from this big blue space that I'm seeing. Now there's this option that they call the color picker. It just looks like something that looks like a pen or something around there. Just click on it. It's your color picker tool. Any color you click on now is going to take that color. So if I click on this color now, it will change this to that color. As you can see, it has changed to blue. But I feel like the thickness of this blue is still small. I want to increase the thickness, right? So if I click on it now, I'll come back to my stroke, and then I'll come underneath that stroke section. I'll see something like inside. Inside means okay, this stroke should be applied inside. Out center means this thing should be applied towards the center. Outside means this should be applied towards the outside. But let me increase the stroke, the thickness of the stroke, so you can actually see the difference. So now this is set at inside. Now if I increase the stroke value to probably 3 or maybe 5, now you see the thing as it is increasing. It's increasing towards the inside, right? Now if I change it from this to center, as it's increasing from the center. Now if I change it to probably outside, as it's increasing from the outside. Do we understand the differences now?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So
Very clear.
So I'll just set this to the normal size of 5 or 4. 4 is okay. 4 is okay. So the sign up button I have there. Okay. The sign up button I have there now, I will change the sign up button. Instead of from white, I'll change it back to blue. So I'll use my color picker so we all get used to the color picker. And I've been able to create a basic page just like this. Isn't that simple? Right? It's simple, right?
Yes.
All right, let's do something more technical. Let's do something more technical now. And I think after that we'll just end there because of time. Okay, now let's say I've finished creating this button, but I want to show the hover state that this button is going to be existing. Meaning that if you hover on this button, let there be that a shadow will appear. You understand? Just like little effects. So let me use that and explain the effects panel. Now this, if you under the stroke section, now you see something like the effects section. Now the effect section is used to add little effects like different kinds of shadows. So if I click on this effect now, you understand, I'm going to see a drop shadow, right? So if you zoom in now, you will see that, oh, it applied a drop shadow. Let me click on it. If you want to adjust the properties of this drop shadow, you just see something like the effect settings beside that drop shadow. Click on the effect settings, right? Now if you click on the effect settings, you will see like different blur ranges. Please, always minimize the way you adjust the value of the the value on the x-axis. You can always adjust the value on the y-axis and then the blur ranges, but don't always adjust the x-axis. So let me increase the opacity of this shadow by increasing this, so you see it. Yes, so the shadow is now very obvious, but on no instance should you apply your shadows like this. Now the best way to apply a shadow is to use the tone of that background to apply the shadow. So for instance, now let me click on this frame, and I'll change the frame from white to red, right? Red though, which color will go well with blue? Let's just, please don't mind my color. I will never use this kind of color on a normal day, but let's just use it. Let me just use it and explain how to apply shadows to get nice shadows. Now I have this now because we have the general mindset that shadows are always black, it does not mean that you will now come and use black to apply your shadows. Instead, pick a darker tone of this background and use it and apply your shadow. So if I click on this button now, I'll come to my drop shadow, right? And I'll come to black. It's on black. Instead of that, I'll choose my color picker, select this background. I have selected this background color now. Now what I will now do is, in this my color wheel here, I'll just bring it down, just down. Are you guys seeing how that shadow is appearing there? You understand? Now if I'm okay with that, I can close this panel. Now this is a smooth way to apply your shadows. Am I communicating? Did you guys see the difference? Can you compare?
Yes, sir.
Can you compare?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you compare
Yes.
this? Can you compare this now? So let me change this guy now back to black. Let's change to black. So can you see the difference between the two shadows? So when you're trying to do your work,
Yes. Yeah.
now when you're trying to do your work, these are just like little pro tips that you can be adding to your work, and nobody will even know that you just started designing recently. You understand? So these are just like little pro tips. So now let's proceed. Now I'll remove shadow from this. I'll remove the drop shadow from this one. Or rather, let's try another option. Yeah. Now if I click on effects, now let's try inner shadow. So inner shadow applies shadow but from the inside. Drop shadow applies shadow but from the outside. Now let's try inner shadow. When I click on inner shadow, you see that it's applying this shadow now, but it's from the inside. So we can use it to show different states that a button is actually existing. So now if I click on this, now let me adjust the radius of this inner shadow. Please mute your mic. Now if I adjust this, if I increase this blur radius, you can see that it's giving it some kind of bevel feel. Let me increase.
So mute yourself.
Okay. Thank you. So you can see.
Mute yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I've done that. So you can see that it's giving it this kind of bevel feel around. So if I increase the shadow to probably 100, so you can see the obvious, you see how it gave it this bevel feel around. So that is how inner shadow works. So now let's try other stuffs. Now let me try layer blur. So layer blur will actually blur this thing. So when you're trying to create an effect and you want to, sometimes they use it in creating this metamorphism kind of design. If you've been following design trends, you must have heard that metamorphism, glassmorphism, those kind of stuffs. And they equally use it to create some nice gradient backgrounds and all of those, blah blah blah. So but layer blur is used for, just as the name implies, you just blur the layer. So if I select layer blur now, it will blur these things, as you can see. So it's blurring it in. So you might be wondering, I said they use it to create glassmorphism. How does that work? So if I just duplicate this guy now and then bring it on top of this and probably reduce the opacity of this guy to probably around 30, you start seeing that glassmorphism kind of effect. So basically that's just how it works. Am I communicating, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so I'll change this to black. Sorry, I'll change my background hue to white. Now let me just show you guys one more thing, something a little bit technical but not too technical. I think during the class somebody asked, how can you create responsive design? Let me just give you introduction to creating responsive design in Figma, talking about constraints now. Now this is our sign in button, right? So let me just delete this guy. Let's have one sign in button. Now once you click on this sign in button, let me just should I group it? let me just group, right? Now if I click on this now this is an object, right? Now a group is like, okay, I think I'm too fast now. Grouping, now you can actually group objects, together in Figma. So group is like you have a bag. In that bag now you have your pen, your phone, and probably your notepad inside that bag. So that all those your properties now are inside your bag. So that is what grouping does. So now I've selected this sign in, which is a text, and I've selected this button, which is an object, and I selected the two, and I press Ctrl G on my keyboard, or you right click and you see something like group in your options. So when you right click, you're going to see something like group selection, and the shortcut there is Ctrl G. So the moment you do that, Figma will now see that particular object as one object. It's no longer see it as a text object or as a shape object. Sorry, did you say something? Okay, let me
Please continue.
Okay, so Figma will just see it as one object. So that was what I did. But follow me closely now. When you click on this object now, if you look at this your properties panel, you're going to see something they call constraints. Now by default, constraint is always at left to top. Now meaning that in this frame now, if I drag this frame now from the left, as I'm dragging it, this button will follow it. Am I communicating? Are you seeing what's happening on my screen? Because I've set the constraints to be left and top. So what that top means is that if we drag from top,
Which button?
this button, the signing button on my page, Ctrl Z, let's go back to the original state, Ctrl Z. Now if I click on this button now, see that the constraints here is set at left and top. Are you guys seeing my screen now? Left and top here on your properties panel.
Yes.
Now what that simply means is this frame now is set to be responsive by the towards the left and towards the top. That is what it means. So if I click on this frame now and I drag towards the left, you can see that the button is following it. The button is not stretching, it's not losing any quality.
It's not changing.
Yeah, it's following it. You understand? Ctrl Z. Now in a case where I click on this object and I change it from, let's just say this object is from here to this point and from here to this point, right? And I click on it and I change this thing from left to right. What it simply means is that if I am dragging this thing from the left, stretch towards the left. Are you guys seeing what is happening? If I am dragging this thing now,
Yes.
if I am dragging this thing now from the right, stretch towards the right. So no matter how you drag it, it will always follow it like that. Now in a case where this thing is not reaching the edge, probably is like this. Sorry, yeah. Okay, let me centralize this text too. Yep. Now in a case where this did not reach the edge, it's from here to here, but the constraint is set to left to right. The moment you drag the frame, it will still move like that towards the left. If I drag the frame, it will still move like this towards the right. You understand? So that's like one tip to creating like responsive stuff. But I just needed to point out that to you, so you start having an idea of how the properties panel work. So I'm just using it to explain every single feature.
Oh, someone is sharing the screen. Please, can you please minimize?
Please, if you're sharing your screen, can you please turn off your video or something? I think this guy is in UI. I think that looks like UI. So, but please turn off your video, so that
That's Unilag.
Unilag.
It's Unilag.
Okay, I've been to a building like that in UI. So, but please, turn off your screen. Can you guys see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
we can.
All right, let's continue. So, one more thing. I wanted to say one more thing. Okay, I think when they are trying to talk about creating responsive platforms, then we can talk about auto layout. Figma has a feature called auto layout that helps you, create responsive stuff. But let me just give you guys an idea of components, and I think we are going to now end there. So now, components. How does components work? Very sweet. I like talking about components most of the time. Somebody's mic is on. Please help me unmute so I can unmute myself. All right. So
unmute yourself.
all right. See, thank you. So now components. Now how components work is component is a feature in Figma. Component is a feature in Figma that saves you a lot of stress. So now, how to create components? We all understood how I created this button. Please, I'll continue working with this button just like this. So I'll select this entire button, and I'll to convert to a component, right click and say create component. You understand? Right click and say create component. You see create component when you right click, or you see this 4 dotted diamond icon at the top here. Click on it. You know, when it has an accordion icon, right? So you can actually see create components, create multiple components, and create component sets. But for now, we want to focus on create components. The other ones are when we're talking about variants. That's when we can start discussing. But let's focus on the first feature, which is create components. Now, the moment I convert this to a component, what happens in my layers panel is that Figma converts this thing into 1, 2, 3, 4 diamond dots. So what that diamond dot means is that this is a mother component. So just give me like 10 minutes. Let me quickly explain this. This is a mother component. Now I want you to understand component as a mother to child relationship. Remember that I said that component helps us, saves us a lot of stress in Figma. So let me quickly explain what I mean by that. Now, if I hold my Alt key, if you hold down your Alt key, you see that my mouse divided into 2. I'll remove my hand from the Alt key again. If I hold down my Alt key, my mouse divided into 2. Then I can click, drag to duplicate. That's how you can easily duplicate a button in Figma. Or Ctrl Z, just be on that button, press Ctrl D.
Can you repeat the process?
Yeah, you can easily press Ctrl D, where D is to duplicate. So if you press Ctrl D, it will duplicate. Figma will inform you that duplicate selection have been made. Then you can now click and drag. It has duplicated. Or delete. I will click on that button, hold down my Alt key, alternate key on your keyboard. You see that the thing will duplicate, your mouse will duplicate into 2. Then click on it and drag it down. It has duplicated. Now, the moment you duplicate a component that is a main component, watch the layers panel. You see that the symbol beside it has changed. It is now a 1 diamond that is representing it, meaning that means that Figma is seeing this as a child component, where this one now is your mother component. So the mother just gave birth to a child. Am I communicating? Are you guys with me now?
Yes.
Now,
Yes, sir, we are with you.
now the mother just gave birth. Okay, the mother just gave birth to a child. Good. Now see the advantage of these components and how it helps us save and how it saves us stress. Now, if I am on this mother component now, and I want to change the color of this button, I don't want this button to be blue. Maybe we've sent it to a client, and the client that we're working for, the client said, "Oh, instead of making this blue button this shade of blue, can we try a darker shade of blue?" Now, the moment I am on the mother component and I come to the view and I change it to a darker blue, see what is happening? It's affecting the child component. Meaning that if I am working on Figma and I have like 100 screens I have developed, which of course you are going to have that kind of screens when you start working on a project, you must have worked on 100 screens, and then you just show the work to the client. The client say, "Hey, let's just change this button from this color to this color." Because you were wise enough to, from the onset, make that button a component, and then you are just using the child component on different phases. You understand? You can just come to the mother component, change the color, and that is it. So for instance, if I duplicate this guy, sorry, Ctrl Z. If I duplicate this guy,
Hello, I can't hear you. Hello.
Can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you, sir.
Yeah, we are with you.
So if I duplicate this guy now, that's the mother component. I duplicate it. Probably let me make another duplicate. Probably another duplicate here. So who can quickly tell me how many mother components do I have in this frame? Who can quickly tell me how many mother components do I have in this frame?
One.
Only
One.
one.
You have just
One.
Thank you. I only have no.
It's one.
Just one.
Okay, thank you. I only have
One.
Thank you. I only have one mother component. I heard someone say 5. Please, I only have one mother component and 4 child components. So this mother now gave birth to 4 children on this frame. So you can duplicate it to as many number of screens you have. You understand? So you should know that how this thing works now is probably this guy probably will be on this page. Probably there is a button here. So this guy will probably be on this page. There is a button here. You know, that's how it works. But now let's just say I want to make change to all these other buttons, and then I will just come to my mother component. In that mother component, I will click on it. Any change I am making on that mother now, it will be affecting the children. You understand? So probably the mother wants us to change. We don't want to stay in this house again. We don't want to stay in this apartment again. As she's going, she's carrying all her children. But in a case where the child now, that is, from the mother component now, decides to be a prodigal son. What do I mean by a prodigal son? For instance now, if I come now, me as the designer, decide to be a prodigal son, probably based on circumstances or peer pressure, and then it decides to pull out from, the mother's source. And it's, of course, we, the designers, are the ones that we, inflict that peer pressure on that button. So how do we do that? Maybe in this particular page now, I feel like, okay, based on the kind of design or the kind of color I used in this place, this button now should not be this color. Then I personally come to that button and I change the color to probably, let me use a very obvious color so we can actually see it. The moment you change the color personally, on this particular button, it simply means that if the mother component is changing the colors of all the other buttons, it will not affect that one that you change manually. So what do I mean? If I come back to the mother component, let me bring these ones in so we can actually be seeing them. Now let me just bring them somewhere here, so we can all be seeing it, because of then I'll delete these other frames. So now if I come to the mother component now, and I click and I start changing the color of the mother component, you see it's affecting the other, but it's not affecting that one I changed. Do you understand? So Figma is seeing it as a prodigal, child. Am I communicating, guys?
I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we understand.
I think somebody is saying that you don't understand. So, but what I'm trying to say is, since these are children from the mother component, once you change the properties of a particular child component, Figma automatically detaches it from the mother. So the mother does not control the properties of the child again. That's just what I'm trying to explain. Do we understand?
Yes.
Yes,
sir. Thank you.
So, but can we duplicate the child component?
Yes. If I click on this child now, I can still duplicate it. If you duplicate it now, Figma still sees it as a child. So if I make amendments to the mother now, it will still affect it. You understand? Because Figma is seeing that, okay, this child now brought a friend. So they are all friends. So anything that the mother says. So for instance, if the child has changed an apartment and the friend wants to visit him, he will not go and visit him in the old apartment. He will come to the new apartment. So he will follow the change. But unless you as a designer now come to this friend now and say, oh, I don't want you to be associating with this blue family again. I want you to become red. You understand? Then if you make any change again on the mother component, it will not affect it, because they no longer have similar properties. They no longer have similar properties, as you can see. Do you understand?
Yes.
Do you understand? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Sir,
I can hear you.
sir, is it Control Z that is to duplicate the shape?
No, Control Z is
Control
to
D.
yeah, Control Z is to undo. Control D is to duplicate. So
Control D to duplicate.
yeah. So having said all of
Okay,
this,
sir.
yeah. So having said all of this, and because of our time, we are going to be stopping here. And I think, Ifedayo, I'll hand over to you now. So if there is any questions we can take before we end the class, please.
So guys, thank you very much, Mr. Auche. You have dissected Figma so much that in our next class we'll not have to do much work. We'll just go into our designs directly. So our time is fast spent. This is 5 minutes to 6. I think we should just put our questions in the Telegram group, so I will attend to it. I think that's fine. That's fine by you guys, right?
Yes, it's okay by us.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, it's okay,
just put your question in the Telegram group. I will answer it. So we'll see on Thursday, and we'll do our practical on Thursday. So see you guys on Thursday. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Okay,
you, sir.
thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right.
Enjoy the rest of your
Thank you.
evening. Bye.
Bye.
You so much saying got it.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you guys.